Why is the record called My Autumn Blue?
The autumn is just naturally like kind of melancholy. I think most people would agree. There's like a melancholia and also like kind of a nostalgic-y feeling to it. So when I wrote that line, My Autumn Blue, it kind of just like, it just stuck. I was like throwing things at the wall, and then, I don't know, it just resonated, and it felt like it kind of summed up like all of what was going on in the other songs too, in a way. So it kind of just worked as a title.
The very next phrase after My Autumn Blue in the song My Autumn Blue is inherent vice, which is interesting. What's going on there?
Yeah, well, I think that relates well to just like how fall works, just like the breaking down of life, not just physically, because you obviously have like the leaves and stuff, depending on where you are, but I'm from Minnesota, so we get that like very vibrant like destruction, and then
the decomposition.
Yeah, and then it kind of goes back, you know, the part of the cycle. But then also like how that acts emotionally in the same, I don't know, I think it's just like a really good reflection of like what's going on internally to see that. So I think that's where that line's coming from, just like how the breaking down and understanding that that's just part of the cycle and it's going to come back around again.
There's blue on the cover by Eliza Weber, but there's also all the other primary colors, and I just think it's so interesting what's happening with the cover. So at the top left and right we have the red, yellow, orange, blue, green, and then we have a candle. There's a reference to a candle in
Nostalgic?
Yeah.
I think there's a candle reference.
Yeah. I watch the wick as it turns to coal.
Yes.
But this candle that we have on the cover, you know, is, to mix metaphors, in full bloom, because there's lots of references to being in full bloom in the record too. And going back to the chakras, which we began with, it struck me as interesting that with the candle, you know, we have these different circles around the flame, red, orange, and then yellow. So
you know, like you're talking about the like in glow coming out. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like the first three chakras. And then at the base of the candle, we have something with a hummingbird on it. And there's a reference to the hummingbird in Sound of Nature too.
Yep.
I'm about to release a book called Her Hummingbird Heart, so that's a nice synchronicity. What's the significance of that candle, perhaps of those colors, of the whatever the hummingbird thing is at the base of the candle on the cover?
It's interesting because when I approached Eliza about the album artwork and stuff, I gave her kind of a list of like imagery and ideas that kind of popped up throughout the album and that I envisioned like being a part, especially like stained glass too, which you can see. Yeah. That was another thing.
Full leaves and roses.
Yeah, roses, which showed up like on the Angelina, and then she incorporated it into, which also is a cool thing, is that the two single arts for Pity Party and Angelina, their artwork just shows up into the full album cover. So it's like these two
integrated.
pieces. Yeah.
Everything's integrated.
Yes. So she kind of sent me this draft in, actually, like there's 4 different color variations of the album cover, which took a while to choose between because they're all really interesting and beautiful in their own ways, but some reason we settled on this one. But I don't know, I think she did a great job of just taking all of those ideas and building something really beautiful, and I liked how the candle turned into the centerpiece, because seeing that it is referenced in Nostalgic Miscellanea, and that being the oldest song, and kind of like being a representation of where I kind of think I really started my journey as a songwriter, was like that song was like a really big step for me, because I felt like I was kind of breaking a new frontier of like how I like to write songs,
Yeah.
which is like a bunch of different like sections rather than just like A B traditional chorus stuff. I
Yeah.
like to have like go on a whole journey.
More turning the page.
Yes.
Yeah.
So I thought it was fitting that the candle landed right in the front.
Yeah. Right at the end of that final song, there's an address. Dear, we're near the end of our line. And the other person, the person that we're addressing, is encouraged to pilot their soul
And fly.
and fly. Let me walk on my own, I'll be fine. This again relates to the walking free in sovereignty.
Yeah, I think that's why this song had to be the last song on the album, is because of that last little section, because it's like, that is like the letting go, finally, of whatever I've been holding on to. In that case, it was specifically a relationship, but it can be applied to like
Yeah.
many other things.
Yeah.
It has that like, this is it, like we're gonna fly free, both of us, letting go. And letting go is extremely hard, but it's, I think in that song at the end, I think that's the most clear moment of like really feeling that.
Yeah.
Like in,
The non-attachment.
yeah, just like really letting it go. And not just trying to, but like being able to.
And of course, the other bookend, Angelina, it's not a phase, only a missing person. It's that kind of sets the scene.
Yeah, it is interesting because the bookends are like romantic
Yeah.
narrations.
There, I'm but a dreamer, I'll exalt all my faith. There is the attachment to the missing person, Angelina.
Mm-hmm.
So let's just, to wrap up, let's weave together some different references to dreaming, what's happening with dreaming. So we referenced the one in Cowboy Town, wingspan open, about to dream out loud. That's the manifestation, setting the intention. But back in Angelina, I'm but a dreamer, I'll exalt all my faith. So there we're aware that, we might get kind of caught in this nostalgic.
Yeah, kind of living in a
attachment.
delusional
Yeah.
dreamer in that kind of way, yeah.
And where's the third instance? Oh yeah, so in Cocaine Caviar,
Yeah, we didn't touch on any of that song really.
there my inner child is buried beneath that coded dreamer.
Yes, I like that line a lot.
Me too, that's one of my favorite lines. So dreaming is something that is good. It's to do with manifestation, wingspan open, about to dream out loud. But dreaming is something that we can get caught in a dream. I'm but a dreamer, and this nostalgia might not be serving us.
Mm-hmm.
And then beneath the coded dreamer.
So I like to think of that line as like, we're like born into this life with like a very pure essence, and then as we get older and experience things, and we kind of collect these certain baggages or chunks of wisdom or whatever, all these different things that kind of like create these different shells upon that child, but it's, that essence is always still there if you're able, you'll get glimpses of it, like
Yeah.
it says in that song. But like, I also think I reference amnesia in Cocaine Caviar at some point.
Yeah.
Which is like another thing I think is, like in life, I feel like once you grasp like an awareness of like, there is that childlike essence, which is, I kind of relate to as like my spiritual being.
Yeah, yeah.
And like what I think like my God essence is type thing.
Mm-hmm.
And like, I think there's a nature of like the human condition where it's like you have the amnesia where you forget that, and
Yeah.
you become so involved in your ego and all these little stories that you're creating and all these judgments and projections that we like forget about that core essence a lot.
We do, yeah. I
So
think
when you get those like moments where you do remember that, or you do just feel that, it's like, it's really refreshing. It's really renewing to remember that's just always there.
buried beneath, and salvageable, resurrectable.
It's always there.
Beneath.
Yeah.
Yeah. No matter how we might feel like our desire needs to be re-educated, like the therapy of desire. No matter how distrustful we might get of our own dream. Like this child part is there, and I think it's connected to the humor we were talking about, celebrating humor. Like the child part gets it and can play.
Oh yeah.
And
playfulness.
yeah. So how does that child part relate to the record?
Well, I think in general in my life, I still feel like a child. I feel really blessed that I haven't lost that too much.
Yeah.
And I feel like I definitely can notice it in people that have completely shut that off, and it's always been really clear to me. And I think seeing that in people has like made me more aware of wanting to hang on to it.
Yeah.
But yeah, I just turned 30, and it's interesting. It's like, wow, I still really feel like a child.
I just turned 38 and I still feel like a child.
Yeah, so I'm like, is this gonna go away, but I don't think so. As long as like I'm keeping up my awareness and actively working on that like healing journey. Yeah. You know?
Yeah. You know that it's always there. It's always buried beneath that coded dreamer. So we need to, but it's always possible to connect with.
Yes, I think it is always possible to connect with.
And music helps us.
Yep, sure does. What is your favorite song?
And what's my favorite?
I'm just curious.
What is my favorite song? I really like Novelty Years.
I think that's my favorite song.
Really?
Yes.
Yeah. Why is that your favorite song?
I think it's the most emotionally potent.
Yeah.
I think it's the heaviest, and I think it was like the most therapeutic to write. And maybe it's because Nostalgic Miscellany was so long ago that perhaps I don't remember exactly how I was feeling when I wrote it, but Novelty Years was like fresh enough that I still feel the benefit of writing that.
Yeah. Yeah, that's
like getting stuff off of my chest and out of my head and just like setting it free.
That's where so many of the different threads we've been talking about in the interview are all present in this potent, you said potent, I think I would use that word to describe that song too. And there, whereas in Angelina, it just says, I'm not afraid, the timing will never be perfect. You know, we're kind of persuading ourselves that we're not afraid. Yep. In Novelty here, because we are afraid.
Yes.
But that's okay. It's okay to be afraid. It's scary to be a human.
It is.
In Novelty Years, take the oath to renounce all your fear. And so that's something that can be renewed. And I think that's related to the excavation of the inner child, taking the oath to renounce all the fear. It's okay that the fear's there.
Yeah, acknowledging it and being okay with it.
Yeah, we don't, rather than I'm not afraid the timing will never be perfect. Okay, I am afraid. It's okay that it's not perfect, and it's okay that I'm afraid, but also I'm going to take care of this inner child. And I have a pledge to that, an oath to that. And so I use the word pledge. Oath is in Novelty Years, but there's pledges in Cocaine Caviar, I think. Yeah, pledge allegiance to all of my satellites.
Oh, okay, yeah.
What's going on with pledge allegiance to all of my satellites, and how does that relate, if at all, to take the oath to renounce all your fear? Thank you.
I don't know if I can see a direct correlation
because
now.
It's intention setting. Like there's a pledge and there's an oath. There's commitment to something.
Intentions. I think pledge allegiance to the satellites. I kind of like am looking at like all these intentions that you set out there. Not all of them bear fruit. Yeah. You know, or come true, or anything in that. But like being honest to like what they initially were. Yeah. You know.
Remember going back to the pure desire there. When there's the initial intention setting, this is the pure desire. I can reconnect with that. That's interesting to think. There's the commitment to the inner child, saving the inner child, making sure the inner child is safe, and and then we can like appreciate the fun of life and be creative and collaborate and be well demoned. Let genius flow. But then also, I like that there's the commitment to that, but then also the commitment to all the satellites. The inner child isn't the only part. There's also
There's all these other little parts of yourself and things, layers you shed along the way, but they all were like, at some point, like some type of badge that you wear.
Yeah.
You know. So yeah. They all serve some purpose.
Yeah.
If you know what I'm saying.
I do know what you're saying. There's something important about acceptance there.
Yeah.
And even the parts that are left behind are loved.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I love that. Thank you.
Yeah, I think that's a good place to kind of settle.
Me too.
Did you feel what I did in the meadow under blankets? And I don't ever want to let you. You're 1,000 miles away, but when you touch me, I feel fire. And when you speak, I hang on every word. And I don't know what happens now. I just wanna be close to you somehow, like twilight love. Did you notice
I have a long history with the church, a long and very complicated history with the church of growing up in a church setting that made me just despise Christianity. Like, I was livid against it. And then became a part of a different Christian community in the Episcopal Church, where I found just the radical opposite, like where I felt like I was experiencing God through the love and the lived example of love and community and healing and all these things I saw in these people in the Episcopal Church. And so I said, well, I want that. Growing up, my mother was very, very spiritual. She was very strong Christian, but a very deeply spiritual Christian and very mystical Christian. And she passed when I was 10. And so I had many mystical experiences with my mom in prayer and just witnessing events she would go to and the friends she would bring over and pray with. Like, I believed in that. And so I didn't want to let go of God. And I was really grateful to find a circle that believed in the kind of God that I resonated with in the Episcopal Church. And so for some reason, my, 18-year-old brain is going like, I'll go study the Bible because that's what I want to do. But I went to the university my mother went to, which was Baptist. And so I got a Baptist Bible degree, which is like the exact opposite of what I believe in about God. But I had some really great professors who I built a lot of theology of my foundation of my theology today. And it just became this jumbled mess of like, wow, I believe in God, but I really don't know what to think about Christians or what they're supposed to think or do. Or like, I was just kind of even more confused and worked that out through just mystical lived experience and prayer and the journey. I was a youth pastor for a few years at the time that I was a part of Moto and writing music, and that was really an extremely meaningful season of my life because I was living the things I'd always wanted to do. And so I see myself as some type of progressive Episcopal theological figure. But I always shied away from my queerness. Like, I am definitely bisexual. Maybe I'm pan. I really don't know how this all works because I've like intentionally kind of like avoided paying attention. I'm like, I super have advocated for gay rights, especially gay Christian rights. And I've had countless hours of arguments with Christians about why I believe it's okay to be gay, like, and God does not condemn that. And that is just if any Christian doesn't approach every person that has been divorced or like kiss somebody before marriage and tell them that their lifestyle needs to change, or the way that they talk to gay Christians, because those were in the same sentence that Jesus was talking about, and he was talking about like trying to show them things about their life. He wasn't saying like, I don't know, it's just everything is taken out of context and twisted, and I've been very passionate about revealing that to Christians and non-Christians for like 15 years. And yet I always just like was secretly attracted to women and didn't talk about it. Very rarely did I talk about it, and it usually didn't go over very well when I talked about it. And so I just kind of shut it off. And I have recently been kind of working on undoing that and just realizing like, I do feel it is a call of mine to like really speak to the church and try to help the church like get back to what it's supposed to be, which is just a community trying to grow together in love and focus on God. And like there just doesn't need to be all the drama that it is today. But I have decided to publicly come out, which for me, maybe the heaviest part of that decision is the lashback I expect to get from the Christian community. both that I am connected to right now. Like, I don't know how many hundreds of friends I have on Facebook that I know from Christian communities I've been a part of or worked at or volunteered for. And all the Christian communities in the future, that's going to be something people think about. If I'm public about it, that's going to be something people confront me about. That's going to be something I'm constantly going to be getting lashback about, because today's church, for some reason, thinks that that's something you need to be aggressive with people over, which is very non-Christian,
Absolutely.
literally. But yeah, I'm making the decision to do it because it matters. I lost a student that I was very close to as a youth pastor this past winter. She committed suicide, and she had just a long history of mental illness struggles, but she was also Black and she was queer. And I can't imagine like how hard living was for her all the time because of how much like just aggression she got from all sides of society the more herself she was. And I just feel I like can't be who I really am without living that out in the rest of my life intentionally somehow, like living her life out. And I know that she cares about these things, and so I want to kind of reaffirm my own intentionality for advocating for the LGBT community, and for especially within the church, because that's where you get like, you can do as many things in schools as you want about how you shouldn't have hate about that, but all the kids that are going to church and learning that like it's okay to try to control people's lives that about this one issue, like that is gonna stick with kids. And so that's what I'm trying to undo, and I can much easier undo that out of the closet than in the closet, I think.
Yeah. That's powerful.
And so I wrote this song about that.
I just want to give a shout out to True Colors. We didn't mention that song, and another favorite lyric of mine is chrysalis hive, blossoming lonesome, thirsty to find some honest emotion. Well, all right. I just love that, and because then the reason why I kind of want to circle back and close with that is because there's an acceptance of the emotions again, whereas at other times we might think there's something wrong, like I shouldn't be fearful, or I need the therapy of desire. Like here, it's just no, I just need authenticity. I just need honest emotion. Thirsty to find some honest emotion. Well, all right. I think that's a nice kind of resting point too. You can show me your true colors. You owe me nothing. Just like be. There's a celebration of being there, and I think that's really important.
Beautiful.